Hello fellow woodworkers and welcome to this week's edition of the Garage Workshop. This week we're going to be taking the clamp storage on my workbench and turning it into this new storage unit for my workbench. Roll the intro. And I've got these tool boxes which I haven't done anything with since I got them. This one I actually got for Christmas, and this one I got in the recent Parkside tool haul video. Again, there's a link to that above. And this one, now as you can see, they're all completely different sizes. So what I want to do is make a unit that I can just put on the end of my storage cart and slide these trays in. Now, due to the nature of the size, they're quite wide, all of them. I need something that's going to go end to end, but this unit that I'm going to make is going to be basically like a cabinet, very similar to the cabinet I recently made with my for my drills and my screwdrivers, but I'm going to make it fairly lightweight. So it's not going to have a back on it, it's going to have a top, it's going to have potentially a bottom, but I might put some drawers in the bottom. I want to see how many of these units I can fit in it. But I'm going to attach it on the side, and I think I'm going to go for a French cleat system so that I can take it off if I ever decide to move it anywhere else around the workshop. I've also managed to pick up a piece of the top, a sort of offcut, I think it was, from a very big box store who I won't name, big orange logo. So this little piece of worktop is literally just an offcut. It was 50p, and it will clash horribly with the unit that I've got, but I'm not too worried about that because, as you know, the price of wood at the moment is insane. So having got this massive cut off for 50p, it might be a nice way to continue the top, and it would also mean that when I build my cabinet that I'm building, I won't need to put a top on it, which is even better for me. I'll just need to make sure it's nice and strong, which it will be if I fix it to the bottom of that unit. So I'm going to have a little play around first, have a few ideas, but let's get down to cutting the wood. So the first thing I did after I'd recovered from having to buy a sheet of plywood, it wasn't even a full sheet, was cut it down. Apologies, I've only sort of got the end bit of this. I did record the first two cut downs, but for some reason I didn't get them. I don't know why. So anyway, when I got it set up, I got the wood laid out exactly in right angles, and as I said earlier, basically all I'm making here is a cabinet, the same sort of cabinet you would make if you were building a kitchen or doing anything else. It's just a really basic cabinet. I'm using struts for the back and the top and the bottom, as will become clear later with the worktop that I put on the top. So I got the struts the right way across. They're not going to remain that wide. They were just in there at that width now, just to sort of give you an idea of how much I cut them down. So when I'd measured them exactly, and when I put it together, as you saw in the last video, it did match. The measurements measured exactly the same on the top and the bottom, so it was sort of well constructed. I then ran them through the table saw to get all the struts exactly the same width, which they were. You see me in the background now, I'm just testing them to make sure they were all the right size. This was just an offcut of plywood, so before I did anything with it, I just ran it through to get a straight edge on both sides before I actually got it to the right width, the right thickness. These were a bit bigger, a bit wider I should say, sorry, than the other ones, particularly because they're going to be on the bottom. So I wanted to make sure that I had something that was just a little bit wider, just to give that added protection on the bottom really, because obviously the top is going to be attached to the sort of Formica worktop. I then took them over to the miter saw, held them together and got exactly the right size. It was at this point actually I realised that my stop hasn't worked. It's not set properly. Infamous pocket holes, haven't done those for a while. And then when that was done, it was time to groove out the channel on the piece of wood. So these are just the two pieces of wood laying side by side. You can't tell from the video, but I did take quite a long time sorting this out exactly. So I started off by putting an edge, which was the width of the piece of plywood. Then I put in the first mark, which was the width or the depth of the Parkside toolbox that you can see there. When I'd got that, it was pretty easy to take it on from that stretch, and then I just marked 18 mil gaps between each of the stands. So you can see me using a piece of wood there. I'd already pre-marked it, and every time I just left enough of a gap for an 18 mil shelf to slide in. But as I said, it actually took quite a long time to do this, more time than I initially thought it was, but I wanted to get it absolutely spot on, which is why I took my time and why it took such a long time. I was happy with how it looked though, and you can see I've used 2 blocks of wood on either end there, just to clamp it together to make sure it didn't move. It didn't move side to side, but as you'll see in a minute when I'm using the router, it did flip up quite a few times, which was quite annoying, but to be fair, it didn't really affect it too much. It was only really one little piece that it did affect it in, and it didn't make any difference in the final product. So when I marked them all out, it was time to go to the Katsu router. I've just done a review on the Katsu router. If you haven't seen it, I'll put the link in here. But really, really good router, and it took the wood out really cleanly. I know it's not very easy to see from here, but it was really good. I started off by doing 2 complete rungs, and then when I got a bit more confident, I did the first main line and I sort of free-handed a bit the second one because I was getting more comfortable with sort of using it. I had it on full power as well for this. I'm not sure if you can pick the sound up, but I had it on full power for this, and it tore through that plywood like no one's business. Really, really good. So after I'd started sort of getting to the use of doing it by eye, it became a lot quicker process. And of course, each time I tested by sliding in a piece of plywood. You can see the wood was raising there. So the shelves were going to be made out of 12 mil plywood. I just used an offcut to check that the width was correct, the depth was correct, and it absolutely was. This is where I started getting some of the problems. I think I'd sort of got to the point where the workbench was sort of outbalanced by the wood, and you can see it rising up in the air. Not that, like I said, not that that was an issue. It wasn't an issue at all. It just meant it took a little bit longer to groove out or route out the lines than I thought it would be. But I have got a router bit. I'm not sure what the name of the bit is. But I didn't realise it's actually 10 mil wide, a centimetre wide. So as you can see there, the line looks a bit wonky there, and to be fair it is, but I went back and took it out. It just meant one of the shelves was a little bit wider. But once I'd done that one pass with it, it worked fine. Next it was time to attach the struts. I started with the bottom first, and that's the bottom you can see on the left, the sort of darker colour wood. You can see how much thicker it is. Then I went on to the top and the bottom, as it were, as it's going to be. And the way that I've designed this unit of being, it's going to have a sort of open front and an open back, because the back is essentially going to be the storage cart, so you'll see that in a minute. So the last 2 bits on, when I was happy and satisfied with those, and they were all perfectly matched, I just flipped the wood upside down, and I spent some time here getting this exactly accurate. I did measure it. I don't think I recorded it, but I did measure it with my roofer square, and it was absolutely spot on, with the exception of that one little bit on the top corner that I thought you saw. I didn't actually know. Okay, so my idea for the top is to use this, which, as you can see, I just picked it up in B&Q, and it was 50p. Now this edge is really rough, really rough. The edge with the actual Formica covering isn't too bad, to be fair, and then this edge down the side is actually not bad at all, to be honest. And obviously we've then got the back, the sort of paper at the back. So my plan is to use this edge possibly as the facing out edge, like that. As you can see, it's just a little bit too short. If I put it that way round, it fits much better, but because of the curved nature of the bench, I don't think it'll look very good. If I match it up at the back, sort of back to back, it's sort of slightly overhanging, as you can see. So to me, I think it's better to put it the other way round, and see. What I'm going to do now is just to offer it up against the unit, the finished unit, and see how it looks and see how the size is. So let's do that now. So when I offered it up, it was actually pretty good fit. It wasn't to as much wide as I thought it was going to be. I was quite happy with that. So I just got my pencil, marked off one edge. It's absolutely flush the other side. You can't sort of see it from here. And then marked it underneath. I then used the cabinet to make the mark. And then I just got my plunge saw. Yes, my Parkside plunge saw, which I'm in love with. I got the plunge saw, and it was here I realised I hadn't actually changed the depth. Somebody mentioned in one of my other videos in the comments that I had the saw too deep, so I changed it and then I forgot to change it back. So when it was done, laid it flat, offered up the unit, just used that piece of wood to get it absolutely flush. Took a little bit of fettling this to get it exactly right, but when it was done, I then went and pre-drilled some holes all the way through. You're going to see in a minute I went mad on screws here, and I'm not saying for a minute you need to use this many. Just for me it was quite heavy, quite substantial, and I wanted to keep it sturdy, so I put loads of screws in. I'm still using the screws, you can see me in the box there, left over from taking apart the chicken coop, but I'm going to sort those out when I get a minute. But attach the top, as it were, it's the bottom here, but attach the top. Nice and pleased with that. And then I did the strip at the back, and the whole thing was really, really solid. When I righted it, as you'll see in a minute, there wasn't any side-to-side movement in it at all, which I didn't expect there to be. But even so, it's still quite nice, you know, when you do that, and it does work. So dropped all the screws in, got it nice and level, nice and flat. I tried to get all the screws the same size, which I managed to do out of that box of delights, which I've got left over. And then I righted it, got it the right way up, and as you can see, it looked really nice. The only thing I did then, I just went over and took off some of the outstanding bits of wood from the saw marks. There was only a few bits, but I just took them off with a sanding block. The next thing I did was take my clamps apart and get the shelf off. Now, rookie error here, I'd completely forgotten that when I built this, to give it some extra strength, I'd screwed it from the inside of the cabinet, and I forgot that. So when I'd taken all the clamps off, then taken all the screws off and undone everything, I thought, oh, it will just pull off. Did it heck. So first of all, I got a little brace on it to try and get it off. A little crowbar, that didn't work. So I tried the screws again. That didn't work, and all the time I'm thinking, why is this not coming off? It should do. So I used the little crowbar again, no luck. So then I thought, I'm not going to play about here. I was wasting time. So then I went for a big crowbar and got that off. Now, it did leave a little bit of a tear out, as you can see then. It wasn't a tear out from the wood. It was a tear out from the dispensed with shelf that you can see. Then I gave it a quick rub over to flatten out all those bits and took the measurements for the box. So the next thing I did was offer the box up, and I wanted to make sure I got it level. So I went through this precarious balancing up of different bits of wood to get it to exactly the right height. I tried lots and lots of different approaches here, but in the end, I just kept balancing and taking bits away and adding bits on just until I got it to exactly the right size. It was important to me because A, I wanted to make sure it was level. And of course, doing all of this, I completely forgot my garage floor is about as level as Mount Everest. After that, I went on to making the shelves. I bought, yes, another piece of wood. It was insane. I'd say it's daylight robbery what they're charging for wood. I trimmed off the edge, and then I just went along and took all of the shelves out of that one bit. I knew I wouldn't have enough because I'd wanted to put more shelves in than I knew I had. But I did have a piece of darker coloured wood, which I was using earlier when I was routing as the sort of template to make sure it fitted. So I knew I had that, and there it is being cut up. Slightly different colour, but again, that doesn't worry me. And then a 6mm piece of MDF just to go on the very bottom of the cabinet, just to sort of cover over the two strips at the bottom and to give me a bottom shelf. And then I went to the pile of wood I've got in my garage, and I found this piece of MDF, which again was an offcut from the same place. A quid that was, and came in very handy, just the right size. So then I went back to the unit and I attached it using that internationally known bracing system called the right leg. Amazing control you get in your leg. It's really, really incredible. So I just sat there, and then I gently used my knee to get it into the right place, and then I leveled it up from the bottom. And this is actually the inside top. This is upside down. This is the inside top, and there's me screwing it into the cabinet. Again, I know I went a bit screw crazy, but I wanted to make sure that it was going to last. So got it all in, put it all down, got it all in exactly the right place, gave it a quick hoover out just to make sure it was okay, and then fitted the shelves for the very first time. And wasn't I relieved that they all fitted a treat. Next, I got out the nail gun, just popped in a few nails. Much appreciation to the person in the comments, I can't remember who it was now, who said buy better nails than the one I used from my stapler review. And very last minute, I decided I just wanted to make a face frame to sort of go around the edge. So I had this old strip of pine, which I took out, just gave it a really brief sand. I just cut it 18mm wide to match the plywood. And then I popped it on to the miter saw, cut it all to the right shapes, and then this is the first time I've done this. I actually mitered the edges with my miter saw, which I've never done before, but it worked really, really well. I got some really, really nice quality cuts out of it, and it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. When I'd got all 4 pieces cut and all on the right angle and all measuring the right shape, I just went back to the nailer and tacked them all on. I'm going to go around and fill these holes because they are quite deep. When I got all 4 edges on, I was surprised at actually how good it was. One little corner wasn't quite right, and I think that was to do with the way that I'd nailed it more than anything else. But all I did was get the block and gave it a quick rub down, and it worked fine. It looked absolutely amazing at the end. I did miss one staple there, so I had to be very careful, but when I'd rubbed it down, it looked perfect. Okay, now the unit is finished, it's the acid test. Do the cases fit in? To be honest with you, I've been a bit scared and I haven't tried, so let's go first. Firstly, the Parkside organiser. Yeah, that fits really nicely. There's a lot of room in there. Now, the DeWalt case. Yep, that fits in there a treat. I don't think I'd get my bigger DeWalt in there though, to be fair, although I have left a bigger gap at the bottom, so it might fit in there. And lastly, the really big, wide, this is also a Parkside case. Let's see if that fits in. Yep, perfect fit. Okay, so the unit is finished, and I have to say I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. I've just got to psychologically get my head around the fact I've got 2 completely different worktops on the top, but one of the advantages which I've already noticed is this is very smooth and glossy, and the actual top of the workbench isn't. It's sort of matte, so I think that's going to actually come in super useful, having that sort of glossiness there. The other thing you might have noticed from the video was I repositioned the storage unit, and the reason that I did that is I had a sort of gap either side, but I've got a little bit of a gap here, and I've got an idea on how I want to fill that. But if I manage to bring that idea to fruition, that will be a little bonus video, because I've got an idea, but I want to see if it works out before I do it. So overall, very, very pleased with the storage. All of the shelves fit perfectly, and making this outside frame out of an offcut of pine strip I had was not something I planned on doing, but I'm really pleased with how it's worked out. And actually it stops the shelves from moving anywhere, which was one of the main reasons obviously why I did this. So overall, really, really pleased with the project, pleased with how it went, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. That's all for this week, fellow woodworkers. If this is your first time at the Garage Workshop, please subscribe. Don't forget to like and comment, and have a look through my videos. I've got quite a lot of a back catalogue now. If you're a regular viewer, thank you so much. I'm loving all the comments. Please keep them going. I read them all, I respond to them all, and your support means quite a lot to me, because obviously this channel is really for you. So please put anything in the comments, or anything you'd like me to build, or just any other general comments. I hope you all have a fantastic week. I'll catch you next week, fellow woodworkers. Bye bye.